Let's talk about actually using the validation controls now to carry out the validation that we need. I want to quickly go through the list of validator controls and explain what each one of them does, and you need to become familiar with this list so you know what you need to do. First off, we have the compare validator. Now, by dropping this guy on our web page, we use him to control the value of one control to another. And that can be huge because some of the time in your interfaces you're using drop-down list, and based on what the user chooses, there are certain conditions on what else can be chosen. So you can set that stuff up. We can compare to a fixed value, a data type, which is huge because sometimes we're not sure exactly about a quantity that a customer may want to order. But we do know that it needs to be an integer data type, that they can't put string data in our form, so that we can check those, or even a file. We can use these. A good example is for like passwords, password lookups, and so forth. Custom validator lets you write your own validation expression, and I would direct you to the documentation. You can use wildcards, and there's patterns and so forth that you can set. A range validator, which is what we're going to look at in just a few minutes in an example, will verify that whatever the user's inputting is within an acceptable range, and you decide what that is. A regular expression validator is nothing more than a pattern match, and you'll use these a lot of times. For example, if we ask for someone's social security number, we want to see 3 numbers, a dash, 2 numbers, a dash, and 4 numbers. You do the same type of thing with telephone numbers and so forth. But this lets us know at least that they've put a social security number in that's at least in the valid form. I mean, if it's got 10 or 15 numbers, we know it's not a social security number. And so, like if it had 10, we would. But you see where I'm going here. The required field validator, you see these all over the place. There just has to be a value in that particular field. And these are those irritating things. Every time you fill out a form on the internet, you always try to leave stuff out that you don't want to give out personal information, or you just get tired of filling those things out, and it always catches you, and it says this one's required. This is a very easy way to set that up. Then a validation summary. We can get a summary of all the validation errors on the page in one control. And so with all of these, I would really stress that you just go start tinkering with these things. Tinkering, that's a technical Tennessee word. But experiment with these and see how they work, and I'm telling you, you're going to like these things. Now, to actually use a validation control, 3 simple steps. Number 1, we're going to add a control to a web form. We're just going to drag it over there out of the toolbox. Number 2, we're going to select the control to validate, and I'll show you this. We do this in the properties box at design time in Visual Studio, and then we're going to set validation properties. We're going to set, for a range validator, what's the minimum, maximum range. For text, we can decide, and you'll even see here with the range validator, we can decide what error message shows. We can decide how it lays out on the page and so forth. So with that, let's go out to Visual Studio and take a look at one of these things and watch how it behaves. I'm going to go into ASP.NET Video now. I've adjusted this just a little bit, but I'll explain what I've done here. Let's just say that on this particular web page, let me bring this thing up. We're going to have a button, a submit button, and a text box. And notice as it is now, I can put any number in here and click it, and it posted it back to the web server. And ASP.NET could have done something with that, written it into a database or whatever, or passed information back to me. But I need to validate this. Now, in the old days, I would have to go write some dynamic HTML client-side code to do this, or some server-side code.